Good morning. Actually, good afternoon, everyone. Oh, thank you for that. So, this session to me is very important, and it's all about, yes, how we modernize our infrastructure into the AI era. Of course, you have heard a lot about AI, but this session is different. And the reason why it's different is because we will talk about the strategy as well as the execution. Because remember, if we only talk about strategy without execution is something like hallucination, and we don't want you to leave this session without know how we are going to make it done. I will be joined by a super expert that is Carlos Pereira, and Carlos is our chief architect at global level and fellow, Cisco fellow. Now, recently, I read an interesting article. It was about what the pilots fear most. And interesting enough, I was expecting something about the engine malfunctions or fuel problems or the wind shears. You know what is that about? It's all about the stress. Stress caused by the unexpected accumulation of warnings. And pilots call that getting behind the aircraft. Now, when I look in this room, virtual room, well, I see and I think that we are quite expert pilots with definitely a lot of flying hours under our belts. However, if you think about your job, if I think about my job, well, it is becoming tougher and tougher by the day. And why that? Well, because we have to manage, we have to react to a lot of warning lights by the day. Warning lights about, of course, the digital transformation, the green IT, warning lights about the multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, about how the cybersecurity attack, and of course, the persistent alerts, it's all about AI. And the shortage, in particular in EMEA, the shortage of skills. Now, as IT experts, as IT leaders, for us it's not a matter of reacting. For us it's really a matter of how we can anticipate, how we can really lead in interesting and meaningful transformation and innovation. For us it's all about how we can control the risks. And ultimately, for us, it's all about how we can drive our outcomes, our business outcomes. But the secret is, yes, we want to get to the business outcomes, and ideally, we want to get there faster. And AI is going to play a role there. But we need to make sure that we all know that AI is also going to add complexity in the system. AI is going to require new skills. AI is going to ask us to change our business model. AI is going to ask us way more energy. As such, we need to balance with our sustainability goals. So to me and to us, the real question should be where and how we are going to use AI, and where and how clearly we are not going to use AI, but our technologies and solutions. Now, there is a very interesting research that Gartner has done. And the results are telling us that more than 30% of the project, in AI project, they fail after the POC, the proof of concept phase. Why is that? Several reasons, but the recurring one is they do not prove the return of the investment. So yes, AI, but we need to be clear when we use AI because we need the return of the investment. And the good news is you are not alone. We are not alone doing that. Yes, because we have a clear strategy. We have what we call and we can help you in what we call the AI journey. We can help you, first of all, to define what is your business strategy. And then we translate that into use cases, and then all the way down into the implementation. And as I said before, not all the use cases we recommend you to implement via AI, but only the ones that really deserve to be done like that because they will give you the return. And let me give you a concrete example. When it comes to the customer services, again, Gartner is telling us that more than 80% of the customers, they are willing to use AI if this can give them an easy experience, if that can give us a more convenient experience, and more importantly, if that can increase the speed. And I can tell you, this is not only Gartner saying that, this is our direct experience talking to the customers, and this is the Cisco on Cisco experience. You know that we like, and I think this is something that is very important for us, we want to first work, and we call that customer zero. We work first in Cisco to prove and really improve the way we offer our services to the customers. And when it comes to the support services, well, I can tell you that this is exactly true. With AI, we can improve the speed, we can improve the quality, and the time to deliver the value to our customers. In particular, let me give you a couple examples to bring that to reality. Our support services, our TAC team, and we have here all the leadership, even from global. Thank you for coming, Buffy and Phil and Anna. You are all here to support us and to make sure that you have time, even after this session, to talk to them. Well, what we have done is a couple of things. First of all, we have embedded in our product the AI assistant. And this is very important because with this assistant, automatically we understand where you are in the product usage. We collect all the data that are needed. We automatically upload that into the file. That means that file that can be used for service requests as well as for an outage. All of that results in a significant speed to the resolution of your problems. Actually, we are in a stage where we are moving from hours to minutes to get to a root cause analysis. How we do that? Well, there is the TAC AI assistant that fundamentally amplify the capabilities of our top engineers. We have the best engineers, and we can further amplify their capability. And the way is very simple. We have the value, and this is something that is unique in Cisco. We have 4 decades of experience. We have 4 decades of data. We have 4 decades of outages, and we have learned from all of that. So simply and very fast, the TAC virtual assistant is able to collect all of this data, propose the next best actions, and what is the root cause analysis. However, the engineer will validate that, and we will get to the 100% accuracy in minutes. One more and last example that I want to bring to your attention is, I'm sure that you are all experts of hardware replacement that happens because of hardware failure. Well, the average time to do that is 84 hours, more than 80 hours on average. Why? You can see here, there is a very long process that we have to go through. And in this process, we have some back and forth between our engineers and the customer's engineers. And think about being a customer. You are quite annoyed. You have a problem. You want a resolution. Well, now we are bringing these 84 hours back to 2 hours. And in some cases, and that's what really excites me, and I'm sure that excites you as well, in some cases we are able to prevent and to start the process before the failure happens. How we do that? Well, when we have a product connected with Intersight, we constantly monitor our hardware, and we see if there are signs that remind us of failure patterns. And if that's the case, we immediately activate the process so that the customer gets to a replacement before they even realize that they have a problem. I think that this is quite excited. And this is just the beginning. This is just few examples of what we can do. And Carlos, please, join me on stage to walk us to the how CX can really make it real. Over to you.
She's just brilliant, right? She's just awesome. So thanks, Adele, for everything you just set up for us here. Adele just touched some points on how Cisco is leveraging AI on some of the services that they're providing to you. So like the technical support is one example, the how to replace another example. So the questions that might be in your mind is how can we help you on your own scenarios, on your own use cases? And we have about 20 minutes and change here to go through it, so I'm not going to try all of it. So we're going to touch upon 3 points. The first thing is what Adele was talking about, that slide that says, I need AI, and right behind it, it says, what for? There's a lot of customers, for the people that were on the IT 10 years ago or change, remember the words of cloud, the days of cloud? Everybody needs to be on the cloud because your boss wants you to have a cloud plan. Not necessarily everybody know what they would do there. So you see a lot of the same things 10 years later with a different acronym that's called AI. So there is a lot of people that say, I need AI. Why? Because it's cool when my boss is asking me to do that, I better have something to say. So the first thing we are helping our customers is what we call the AI adoption journey. Everybody's going to have some sort of AI. For what is a very important thing. Based on that, we have in Cisco the ideal AI adoption framework. It has been proven for over 10 years on people that came to the company for an acquisition that we did, plus the internal knowledge that we have. When you talk about AI here, I'm not specifically talking about generative AI. We are talking about AI in a broader term. It could be a machine learning algorithm to do drift on a financial. It could be a computer vision algorithm. It's still AI. Not everything is chat interface for NLP for a conversation on these days. So AI has been here for a while. And a lot of the proof points on the business case has to do with that. So the first thing on our methodology is on the left-hand side. It has to do with use case identifications. And I'll tell you one thing. In AI, one of the good premises for us to understand is not what you're going to do only, but mostly what you're not going to do. So there are situations on some customers that have hundreds of use cases, which a lot of people are trying to play with the GPTs of the world. But in the end, we are talking about a handful, less than 10 use cases that actually have return on investment to the business. So define what you're not going to do, because it doesn't make business sense. That has a return on investment that Adele mentioned is as important. And from that, everything is anchored on a use case. Then you go for a design of a solution, and then you eventually need to validate that as a solution because PowerPoint is the best engineer that exists, right? Everything works on PowerPoint, but when you put this in reality, not necessarily is true. So you need to validate. Sometimes you need to go to the proof of concept. If you have a solution in mind, you can eventually go straight. And then from there, you go for having the fun. You get out of the POC, you get out of the minimum viable project, and you need to do what? Launch and adopt. And that's what fun starts. Because you actually have this in production, users need to provide feedback, you need to calibrate your reality, and you need to run it. And then scale and adopt, and at the same time, you need to monitor, and it becomes a project like anything else. So this is a high level. We have a lot of details on it. I know the people on the back is like, oh, this guy is crazy. I should have brought my glasses. The material is going to be available. You can take a picture. It needs required high zoom. But I advise you to walk after this to the other side of this on the AI hub, that big circle. We have a booth with the team just on that, on details on each of those. I'm going to touch upon just a handful. In the first case, on the use case identification, there is return on investment in the business case. Adele was mentioning this. So we help you to help come up what it makes sense and what it doesn't. The other one is the strategy, the development, and what you're going to do with AI for your business. Then, as you go for that definitions, you have a set of use cases that make sense. Then you go to what is the technical qualifications. What are the designs and proposals? What is the blueprint? Then you go to model definition. Then we go to find you're going to use GPT or download and play with that. Not over the weekend, you downloaded the prompt and say, here is my solution. And go to, no. So you can do this to play with your kids. That's fine. But for the business, it's not the case. We see a lot of people that do that. I just download the model and get this running on the GPT that I bought here on Amazon that doesn't take a week to do something that in the cloud or in the data center takes 3 minutes. So and you can't justify the $3,000 on the Mac Mini that you just invested twice to just run at home. There is some silliness. I'm not making up. People are coming with those questions. So we go to the AI validation, and then your solution test, it can help you to run some of this on a device and all of that part. And then when you get this, you get to the solution development. What is the infrastructure going to run? How many users are going to consume this? We start with a MVP of 100 users, but you're going to scale for the whole company. It's 10,000. What kind of answers? What's the context windows? Do I need to have a machine learning model together with Gen AI? You see the gist. So it can help you with that. We've been doing this for many years, and that's part of what we have the team to do that. And at the same level, there is an AI governance in the bottom. Not everything is going to be done by our teams. You know that Cisco is a partner-led organization, so a lot of this, the partners help us out for all of those phases. So with that said, I'm going to just do an example on Adeli, going a little bit deeper on the integration with what we did on the technical, the technical support center, all the TAC that you have and all the service requests that you go for that. This screen, what it is telling you is the support assistant that exists in a product. If you read on the top left side, it says Firewall Management Console. So what it is a product of Cisco that manages firewalls. It's not the TAC. So what we did is the following. We took the intelligence that exists on the support side, which is an agent by itself, and we embedded into the product. And the reason is the following. Every product, whatever that is, Cisco or any other thing, all the AI assistant that goes on the product is going to be trained on the knowledge of the product, like configurations and documentations and all of that. So if there is a bug or something that's going wrong, we're not going to train the model of the product as something that doesn't belong to the product, because the bug is an anomaly, right? So what we did, the product is trained on all the technology that exists on the product. It hits a point that it doesn't know the answer. What we did is an integration with the TAC agent. But the key here is to realize that if I have a TAC agent here, a support agent, and I have a product agent, what's the likelihood for you to ask the same question to two agents and get different answers? Ta-da! Very high, right? So what we did is instead of having these swivel chairs of operations, we get the context that exists in the product, feed behind the scenes to the support, so the answer comes back contextualized, and it renders in the face of the SecOps persona in this case. If it would be a networking, then it's a network operator, and so on and so forth. What does that mean? It means that for the operation person, you have only one screen that is a single source of truth. Second, it means that if we need to open a case, all the context of the environment comes on that request. So I don't need to ask you who you are, what the show tech that you're running, all the environments, because I'm there in the product. And last but not least, it allows you to follow that up as you go to other products. So as more products that use the same assistant, TAC or the support intelligence that comes to the TAC is a broker. So it goes for the whole network or the whole device. So this is an example of how technology behind the scenes as a use case that use multiple agents manifest on a business that I just proved to you. It is good for the customer, it's good for us, it's make everything better and faster. Let me go to another one. We are not stopping here with support. As we have an agent that is the support that actually embeds on the product, why can't I add more capabilities? So if I can add the health checks that Adeli showed there and get a best practice for you, like, hey, your network is running on that type of environment. I can see that based on the best practice, you are behind on this, that, and the other. So you do a health check, you have a potential improvement performance of 20% if you change this, that, based on the guidance. And because I'm in product, I can actually be even autonomous or AI assistant to drive the actions if you give permission for that to happen. So you can see how it can potentialize. That was on the journey. Let me talk a little bit about the AI-ready infrastructure. I'm now going to talk to you about the switches and the smart switches and the routers, and you heard this all in the keynote. I'm going to tell you about, from the services side, after you deploy this, what may happen. So what may happen is that you need to do a change. A change could be hardware or software related or both, right? When you do a change, the first thing that typically happens, you need to configure a device. And that device, I'm not saying a particular hardware. The device could be a virtual machine, could be an agent, could be a piece of software, could be a SaaS services. You need to make a change. You make that change, you do the local testing, hopefully before the change, right? You do the local change, and if it fails, you need to come back. If it doesn't, you keep going. And you go and you do some regression testing before you run in production. If that works, you keep going. If it doesn't, you go back to square zero. Same thing goes to security and compliance audit. All the operation people like, you're driving me nightmares. I just had lunch, man. Don't do that to me. Yes, I'm doing, because you can have that failing. And come to a point that after you run all of this, and I see smiles, which means that there is an impedance resonation with your life, kind of thing. And then it starts to begin changing production, which can actually also fail. And if it doesn't fail, and you actually run the Olympics of operations change, you end up to the change complete. But wait, there is more. You got it, but then you need to do a freaking manual documentation of that by hand afterwards, and you are totally exhausted, nobody does it. So when you have another change, you don't remember what you did before, and you know all the movies, right? So what we did is basically the following. A lot of that is workflow-based. It's very operational, the same. So the first thing we did is actually automate this. But I'm not talking about automation from the lens of I'm using infrastructure as code. I'm actually codifying this in such a way that you can actually change the approach you're taking. Everything that I said before, you do before you make the change. So how can I make sure that, actually after, now can I make sure that before the changes happen, I can do this automated? So the first thing we did is actually we extract and you model the whole network and the whole devices. And by doing the modeling, we then pretty much codify the model that goes to a network. If I codify, I can run tests for that code through a CI/CD pipeline before. So I can test that environment without actually pushing configuration to a device that's running in production. So we did all of that for the configuration validation, for the regression testing, and for security testing. And also, because it's now codified, and I'm automating the push with infrastructure as code, the typical Terraforms of the world, we can get that and automate the documentation. I'm not telling you any rocket science. A lot of people have done this, I hope. If you're not, we help a lot of customers. You can get 4 hours, 2 minutes by just doing this. What you want to do is go one step further by having AI to solve 2 issues that still exist on that automation pipeline. The first issue is, even though you can automate the whole deployment of infrastructure, every test that you need to run is different for every time that you need to do. So even though we can automate the whole thing, the testing, it depends on the configuration. So what you do now, we use Gen AI, which is language models, to actually provide the syntactic testing by AI to the environment that we want to change, which is contextualized based. And the same thing, we are using AI to also generate the code that you need to use to run those tests. So now we automate the whole pipeline, and we use Gen AI to automate the parts of the knowledge that didn't belong to the pipeline, but now can. So we end up with a situation like this. You can ask an AI assistant that we put on top of this, something like this. I need to configure a subnet for each bridge domains on my ACI fabric. I'm using ACI as an example. Could be SD1, could be access control, could be other things, right? And then the AI assistant will reply to you, spilling the configuration or spilling the test, and then you have two options. You can have that whole configuration that's spelled, copy and paste, and put on your CI/CD pipeline on the Git as part of the planned test. You copy paste that, or you can say, I trust you, you do everything. I don't recommend you do it first. Try a couple times so you tune to your own tuning, or we have our team to tune it for you. We have done for a lot of customers. But you can see how AI and automation can come together. And we have done this now for the whole infrastructure. So regardless of your deployment model, if you are on a data center, use cases on the edge like computer vision are very common on the edge, or in the cloud, and at the same time, all of the infra that runs on premises with our compute and our network, the storage partners, and the GPU capabilities and partnerships with both NVIDIA, AMD, and even Intel, and the software stack that goes on top. All the way from infrastructure management to the Hugging Face and the frameworks that exist there. So that is the second example that we talk about AI-ready infra. The last one that I covered on the 4 or 5 minutes that I still have here is AI security. I'm assuming a lot of you have seen the AI defense on the keynote that DJ talked about. So I'm going to go a little deeper on that. Just as a review, if you're talking about a regular application, it typically has the data and infrastructure as a foundation capabilities, and then you write the application code on top of which the user has access. When you start to talk about AI application, there is a layer in the middle that's called the model. And the model could be a machine learning model, could be an AI, LLM, all of that. Depending on the type of model, the type of predictability and that you have from this and the security or safety varies. But it is a new layer which creates another interface between the layers and new risk vectors which I have on the right. So let's go a little bit more on the weeds here. If you're doing development, which is the bottom of my slide here, I'm talking about getting a model, either a machine learning model that is published over there, or using someone like DataRobot or Databricks. And if I go into LLM, I can get a Mistral, open source, or a Llama, or I can use OpenAI and stuff like that. If I have that model, it has been trained on public data. You wrap the whole internet, and you have been trained on that model. In order for that to be production ready for enterprise, you need to do some RAG or supervised facility tuning, fine-tuning, or needs to be reinforcement learning, depending on the use case that you're talking about, in order to vectorize this and create context that relates with your use case. Because the model doesn't understand what you're talking about. I'll give you an example. You saw the press release that we did on Mistral for our internal use case on renews. The model knows what renews is. It does. It's actually on the dictionary. But it doesn't understand how renews works inside Cisco and all of our systems. We augment based on your enterprise. All of you need to do the same. So when you go to production on the response back and forward on those AI applications, the model, as I had before, is a very important layer in the middle. Because in the end, this is an AI application. It's not an SAP, it's not an Oracle database, it's not a Microsoft SharePoint, it's an AI app. So the model is key there. And it brings different security aspects for it. Some are security risks, and some are safety risks. The security risks are akin on typical applications that exist out there. You have like from injection of data poisoning, you can have people trying to do denial of services. It's an application. But there are new things that start to become interesting, like hallucinations, prompt injections, how you talk about toxicity. You get a model. What happens if someone asks, what's the color of the sun there? What is the answer you're going to answer back? What happens if the people curse your mother there? What do you do with this? And this happens. And you have a lot of the traces that exist. So those are security concerns that sometimes people try to instruct the model to behave like someone else. And the model is like, sure, I'm giving you all of that. And that happens. So be aware of this, because there is a lot of pressure, as I said in the beginning of the conversation. I need AI for what? And there's a lot of people that are not doing the validation of use case and the methodology, and when he gets and builds something in the end, they get hit by this. With that said, that's my previous 2 slides. the security of solution for AI defense, DJ just did a demo very quickly. It has two aspects. The access control for what is called shadow AI. Remember the shadow IT on the cloud base that people go straight to Amazon and bypass the IT? Don't we believe that they are downloading and accessing the GPT outside of the IT? It's the same story. It's just different acronym. So we are blocking this and making control back for people can use that. But at the same time, there is requirements for defense as it goes to runtime, as it goes to the application and access to the cloud. By the way, the vast majority of the AI use cases that people have to do are B2C, meaning business to consumer, chat interfaces, like contact centers. The bulk of the money is on the B2B, the business to business with pretty much inferencing. You don't train the model because the model cannot see your data because your data is yours. So you need to do inferencing. A lot of the inference use case is going to run cheaper on devices that you control because it has to do with data policy and data compliance and stuff like that. With that said, we're going to be around. I want to leave you with this. Artificial intelligence, and if you come back here, my friend, you see, this is the Shrek and the beauty. So you're like, artificial intelligence plus humans intelligence plus CX
is going to be, is going to give you the return of the investment and the business results that we were talking about at the beginning. So as we said, this is all about how we can be with you on this journey. And if you want to know more about that, please make sure to come to our booth. And Carlos will be there, I will be there, and all our experts will be there for you. Thank you very much for being with us and listening, and have a good rest of Cisco Live.
Thank you.